Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today I wanted to put up some games with Nimrod. I thought this card was real cool, could do some fun things with it, and I still do feel that way about the card, but it's just not possible right now, or it's at least not worth the frustration that comes from trying to do cool stuff with this card in the current very stagnant, dominated meta we currently have in the game. Tried to play some last night and this morning, and it's just non-stop Thanos and Sherry. Pretty much all people are playing. You get like 70% Thanos, 20% Sherry, and maybe like 10% something else if you're lucky. And Nimrod just sucks into those decks. There's not really a nice way to say it. Nimrod is just bad. It's a neat card. I had a lot of fun brewing the decks for it, and we had maybe a game or two out of like 20 that we were actually able to do something cool with it. But if you don't want to just be losing the vast majority of games, you probably shouldn't be playing this card right now. Now, could that change in the future? For sure. It definitely could. And I think it might whenever they decide to get around to balancing this very stagnant and stale metagame, where we've kind of come to the conclusion already, these top two decks, there's not a reasonable, consistent counter to them, so people just play them, because your best chance of beating them is to fight fire with fire. Now, one of the decks I've really liked, Sarah Control, seems like on paper it would actually line up pretty well against both of these decks. The big problem with this, though, is Thanos cheats such a absurd amount of mana and leech. It's leech. So not only are they getting ahead on stats on the board very consistently, they are denying your ability to try and interact with those big stats because they just leech your ass on turn 4 or turn 5, and they take away Leech's weakness, which used to be Leech was a very weak tempo play on 5. Well, he's a lot weaker on turn 4, and he's also a lot weaker if he's coming out for free, or if you're just throwing him away into the lockjaw and pulling out something bigger instead after getting the effect. It's just not very fun. And to be clear, I don't think these decks need to be deleted like a lot of people assume when anybody talks about nerfs. I don't want the decks or the cards to be deleted. But in their current form, it's just not sustainable, and it's making for a really shitty meta at the start of a season, which is normally when people want to experiment and mess around with the new card. It's just not worth doing right now. It's an exercise in frustration. It's not really fun, and until they balance the game, I don't think that's going to change. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. This is the overwhelming sentiment I've seen from a bunch of other players, a bunch of other creators. Like, this just is the meta we have now, and I really hope that they do something soon. Because we saw a very similar thing happen last season with Nimrod, with MODOK. But we were fortunate in that they had already planned what adjustments they wanted to make. We only had to deal with Zabu and Surfer, making Nimrod MODOK pretty much entirely unplayable for the first day or two. And while not ideal, it wasn't that long. But we still have no idea when the next round of changes are going to be coming. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, and I think given the variant rush coming out in 2 weeks, there's a decent chance that it might be 2 weeks. And 2 weeks of this meta, that's going to be half the season, with the same meta we've had as last season, with the new card not making any kind of reasonable impact. And you don't need the season pass card to drastically change the game, but you want it to be at least somewhat playable. And in the current environment, it just isn't. This card is not even like remotely good enough to warrant play. And a lot of cards aren't, because they just can't reasonably compete with the best two decks. And so there's not much you can do other than say, all right, I guess I'll give in, fight fire with fire, and I'll play the best two decks. And it's just a shitty feeling, and it's kind of the exact opposite that you'd want the feeling of a new season start to be like. So I didn't really want to have to do this video. I wanted to do a Nimrod video showing off some of the cool decks I brewed, but there's just not really much to show other than the card is going to get absolutely clowned on by the decks from last season without any card changes. And those decks are making up the vast majority of the ladder experience right now. So why am I making this video? Well, there are two main reasons. One, I'm sure people are going to be wondering why there isn't a Nimrod video, and this is the answer to that. But the other reason is for people on the fence about the season pass. I think the smartest thing you can do right now is to not buy this season pass. Just wait, because playing with the card right now is not a great experience. And by not buying it right away, it hopefully shows the developers that, hey, if you aren't balancing your game, I'm not going to be as interested to give you money for this new card that's effectively useless. So those are my thoughts on that. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.